Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever around the world. Welcome to X1 Live. My name is Lionel Miranda, and today we're going to talk Ogor Mawtribes. This book hasn't quite, well, no, this book has landed, I should say. The official release is, as the time of this recording, pre-orders are going to be going up this coming weekend, and it'll be 2 more weeks after that before it hits general release. This book was in the FOMO box that was released about 2 weeks ago. And in that meantime, I've had the opportunity to play some games. I've had an opportunity to settle on some rules and some thoughts on one of the armies from my absolute favorite faction in Age of Sigmar, that being Destruction. So let's talk Ogor Mawtribes. Now, my history with Ogres is an interesting one. At the time when they first came out way back in the day, during Warhammer Fantasy Battles, I was at the boardroom when we were discussing it. Now, I used to work for Games Workshop many moons ago, and I can't remember what department I was in, to be honest. I think I was in the sales department at the time, but it might have been retail management at the time. Anyway, they had told us they were coming out with this Ogre army, and I just thought it was the silliest idea. There were so many armies that hadn't had any attention given to them. And for the studio to decide that they were going to release a whole brand new army when they haven't even, finished armies that were already in play, I just thought it was a silly idea. And then the army came out. And I'm going to tell you, I was 100% completely and absolutely wrong. Ogres were an absolutely phenomenal line of minis, and they have withstood the test of time over all this period. I can't even remember when Ogres were actually released. It was more than a decade ago for sure. And they transitioned past Old World, or I should say Warhammer Fantasy Battles, into Age of Sigmar, and then now we have a whole batch of new models coming out. And I'm telling you, the old models still kind of stand in there, and we'll be talking about that because I'll be showing off some of my collection, what I'm doing with some of my old models as the thing goes. But Ogres were always one of my Destruction factions that I was flirted with, that I played fun games with. My main factions were the Greenskins. I've been primarily focusing on orcs of various varieties, either cruel or not. But this time around, I was amped. I was amped for this release. The book is freaking awesome. They previewed a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, is this actually a good Destruction book? Blowing my mind. So with that, let's briefly, I'm going to try to keep it brief anyway, start going through some of the aspects of the army. Now, just so you know, when I do these, I do this obviously significantly, after many of the channels are already ripped through and weighed in. I like to digest a little bit longer and kind of give you maybe a more experienced approach. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll find out in a few moments. But it does also mean I am not going to review every single aspect of the book. There's certain aspects I have no interest in, and I will touch upon those, and I'll tell you why I'm not interested in them. And then you can either agree with me or not. It's entirely up to you. So without further ado, let us get to battle traits and the Eat 'em Alive rules for Ogres, which is just awesome. Making sure I'm not missing anyone. Go back to here. Okay, here I am. Okay. So Ogres, we got the Eat 'em Alive ability. Now, this is their battle trait. This only triggers if they have fought. So what does that mean? If they charge, pile in, all that is now part of the fight. Charge is part of the charge phase. The piling in and what have you is part of the fight. So it does mean that they actually do not have any battle traits necessarily at the beginning of the match. Now, this is rather unusual. Interesting design. I thought it was going to be a bit bigger of a deal than it actually is. The ogres themselves are so robust that I haven't really felt the lack of my own rules necessarily at the beginning of the game. Now, there is a way for you to get rules right off the bat through a special character. We'll touch upon him in the next little bit. But generally speaking, ogres are fine. Like, they're fine without the rules. I mean, are they better with them? Yeah, heck, they are. So let's talk about it. Let's assume they fought. They then chomp at a unit, inflicting D3 mortal wounds. Now, these are legit D3, not bad D3. So 1 to 3 mortal wounds on the unit, whether it's there or not. And then they pick from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 abilities. I'm not going to go through all of them. I share my man Gaio, and by the way, I want to say thank you very much, Gaio, for helping me out tonight. My man is in the DJ booth, mixing the music for our slides, and thank you so much, Gaio, for taking the time to do so. To kind of abbreviate this, I typically use raw and bloody flesh, exotic giblets, crunchy bones, and slick innards. What the heck does all that mean? It means subtract 1 from any attack's rend coming at me. That one I lean on fairly huge, depending on timing, and I'll talk about that in a second. Exotic giblets, which is subtract 1 from ward saves when I punch a guy. So -1 to your ward save to shrug my damage. Crunchy bones is critical hits 2, which makes one of your units go from absolutely amazing to just nuclear. And then slick innards, which is run in charge. So what's the tempo of this? And what I mean by that is, when do you do it? If my opponent is charging me on round 1, they take initiative or take priority and they charge me. And I haven't done anything, I'm just standing right on the line of scrimmage going, come at me, bro. Not only is that the most amazing thing, and I'll get into the more details of the units of what I do that with, but it gives an ogre player an opportunity to, at the end of that combat, to then go run in charge. So the run in charge one is the slick innards. Because why? If they took top of the turn, you now go to the bottom of the turn, and now because they charged you, you've unlocked run in charge. Now you're saying it's like, well, that's only assuming you become unentangled. I'm going to tell you right now, it is very hard to hang with any ogre unit. The output of the units is just been tremendous. I have no other word for it. Gluttons just fight through whatever that they are in contact with. Mauler beasts are absolute houses, and those are primarily the things I've been experiencing, of course. Again, we'll talk about a few other theoretical things. But if someone charges me, generally speaking, in the instances, and this is purely anecdotal because it's only a handful of games, folks. It's not like because I played 6 or 7 games that I'm like now the absolute expert and I could tell you definitively anything. But I can tell you, anyone who's ever charged me has pretty much died. And then I unlock run in charge, and then I go smash into their lines, and there it goes. So you got to be, as an opponent of ogres, you got to be pretty darn careful that if you're going to commit, that you're going to be able to really do some serious amount of damage to the unit that you're hitting. And you're like going, well, yeah, that's how Alpha Strikes work. Why is your army any different? Well, we'll get into that. Now let's assume they don't do that, and it's you. Well, when you charge typically forward, you'll slam in. Again, you have no rules, but that's fine. Again, their raw stats, just incredible. Their output is incredible. The only weakness is the entire army just owns 4s and 2s. Like, that's pretty much the stat line of everything, 4s and 2s. Hit on 4s, wound on 2s, and at least 1 rend, if not 2 rend, and all of it is multi-damage. But typically when I'm setting up and I'm at a bottom of a turn, or it's going to be my next opponent's turn, I go for Raw and Bloody Flesh, which is subtract 1 from red of attacks that are coming at me. And the wonderful thing about these abilities is these aren't army. If you attack with your whole entire army or whole entire army engage, you could say all of it is reducing Ren from incoming attacks. It's just fantastic in a really, really good way of mitigating that priority roll that you're about to enter into. At that point, if you fail a priority, you're like, well, at least my defenses are up. So, absolutely adore this. This has been absolutely fantastic. In every game I've played, I love the ability to change as well, because at the end of every fight, you get an opportunity to eat them alive, and you could just switch, move from -1 Ren to crit hits, because let's just say they took priority and they doubled into you. You're sitting at reduction of -1 to the Ren, and now you know you're next, and you've just fought. Well, I'm going to go with crit hits, or I'm going to go with reduced ward off of my opponent, and off you go. It is such a really cool, flexible thing. I gotta say, the steaming brains add to the unit's control characteristic isn't something that I've even entertained taking or choosing, simply because most things just don't survive contact with ogres, that the additional control is unnecessary. Ogres already have a great OC. Again, these are a handful of games. I haven't really needed to look at steaming brains at all. And then mystery meat, subtract 1 from the power level of enemy units while they're in combat with that unit. If you're in combat with my ogres, you're probably dead as a wizard. You know what reduces casting value? Dead. It's nothing more than that. Okay, so that is Eat 'em Alive. What do we got? Oh, Brandon Bouchard. Yay, ogres. But Static Mike. Oh, no. Am I staticky? Oh, static gone now? Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Looks like Gaio maybe worked his... Oh, it was on your end. Oh, okay.
I couldn't hear it.
What's that?
I couldn't hear it.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so it's good now. I'm glad. I'm happy that you're with me, and I'm happy that the mic is in a much better state. All right, so what's the next battle trait? We go to Bull Charge. Bull Charge, it says a heck of a lot of words there. I'm going to abbreviate it. Basically, my ogres charge in. I then have the option of once per turn army, so it's not going to be across my ogre line. I have to pick one of the units. During any charge phase, pick a friendly Ogor Mawtribes unit that charged, that has not used the Rampage ability, because that's important. What happens is I pick a unit that I'm in combat with. I tell you, you have the option now of moving 3 inches. Now, when that unit moves 3 inches, it can move through combat ranges of my units and can end that move in combat. So it could actually end the move in a different combat entirely. Or it could just move 3 and maybe cap an objective. That would be the downside, right? Those are all the fears that, that you have when you first read this rule. I'm going to tell you in practice, because I'm the one that's deciding how the engagement is going to take place, generally speaking. This has been an absolutely fantastic rule. What I inform my opponent is you can move 3 inches away from me. And if you do that, the other portion of this rule is I then impact. I pick the amount of ogres that are within 3, and then I roll a die. The die executes on a 3+. Yeah, on a 3+. And then Gutbuster units get a +1 to that die roll. So my gluttons go in. I base you with, say, 2 or 3 of them, depending on how big your models are, I guess. You can then move directly away, which means At most, I might get 2 or 3 die rolls. On 2+, I do a mortal wound. That in and of itself isn't bad. But then here's where I inform my opponent. If you move away from me, I then, after I inflict those mortals, I then get to move 3 inches. And now this is an out of activation pile. I have to move toward the thing that I just made move, that I just gut busted, I guess, that I just impact. But it does mean I get to creep up another 3. And then when they activate, they get to pile again. And here's where I just tell my opponent, it's like I'll be able to reach out and potentially connect with that unit and direct attacks or clip them to engage them in combat. And then what happens is my opponent typically starts fronting and preventing me from doing that. If they do that and they close in, I then measure to see how many ogres are within 3 and then roll that many dice. So if they don't move far away from me, I get to roll more dice and then I just get to just eat them or impact them into the ground and just inflict a bunch of mortal wounds. So either they give me movement or they just take a bunch of mortal wounds. And that's no joke when you're talking gluttons, when there's a unit of freaking 10 of them, chucking 10 dice on a 2+ doing a mortal wound, that's going to make you want to think. You might want to give ground, but that just gives, as soon as you start moving away from me, I then get the opportunity to pile. And it just gives me that ability to start tagging things and start messing with things. I've been finding the bull charge to be far better than I thought it was. I don't know if anyone else has had any other experiences with it. Again, this book hasn't been out for that long, but it has been absolutely clutching a lot of my games. I want to welcome Darktron to the chat. I have to say Bull Charge is a good ability here. Here why my opponent can move out of combat or eat the mortal wounds. I can choose to pile, move, or not. By doing this, I can avoid combat phase abilities. And he's saying he's been loving ogres. What's there to say, really? It is absolutely fantastic. It's, like I said, the Bull Charge, initially when I read it, until I actually really started playing with it, I didn't realize how good it actually was and how not as corner cases I thought it was going to be. Really tremendous. The other battle traits are for Beast Claw heroes. Beast Claws aren't a big part of my collection of ogres. I've always been a gutbuster kind of guy. I don't have a huge army of monster trucks. I think I own one monster truck as just a tech piece, like a really good combat piece initially anyway. Nowadays, I'd probably now only use it for the Husker, and again, we'll get to that when we do get to that. But the actual Beast Claw Raiders have the ability to set off the table and then come onto the table from the edges of the board. So you set up the hero wholly within 9 inches of the battlefield, more than 9 inches from the enemy, then set up other friendly units that are in his regiment around him. So the Beast Claw Raiders can actually start popping up around the edges of the battlefield, which is a cool ability. I haven't really used it. Do I need to tell you that's a good ability? No, I don't need to tell you that's a good ability. This also is keyword Beast Claw Raiders, so it's not just big monster trucks. It's any unit that has the Beast Claw keyword. And again, we'll close in on that in the next little bit. All right, so that is the battle traits. Let me double check. I want to welcome Looney-Win? No, Loon. I'm going to call you Loon. Charge one unit, don't follow, then combat phase pile into another unit. Yeah, you have that option as well. That's you're absolutely correct. It's not like you need when you do your belly charge, so to speak, your bull charge, that you need to follow up into that unit. You choose if the guy moves 3. Just remember, as soon as you base contact with the guy, though, if he moves directly 3, he's still within 3 of you. That's all. So if you want that as an option, maybe you want to stop about a ½ inch away so that if he moves 3 away from you, he's just out of combat. And then you can just pile into something else entirely. So there's a bit of manipulation there, but I'm sure you already know that. All right. Let us talk now battle formations. I am going to shortcut this. We'll get Guy out to put up the actual slide. And there is Hunger-Filled Tribe. There's Vanguard of the Maw Path, Hinterland Hunters, and then Maw Cult Fanatics. I'll shortcut this. Everyone thought the Maw Cult Fanatics was the best one. Guess what? I could really confirm that it is the best one. Maw Cult Fanatics has just been absolutely fantastic. Once per turn army, end of any turn. This is pick each friendly Ogre Mawtribes unit that use the Eat 'em Alive ability. So the trait where it gives you all those bonuses or debuffs. If you used it, you get to heal D3 wounds. This is absolutely tremendous. In an army of nothing but multi-wound models, fan-flippin-tastic. These foot heroes, like this rule right here, makes all our foot heroes phenomenal. Like just absolutely phenomenal. I think they're already great. Like I really rate Tyrants, and I'll get into it in the next little bit. But this is just ludicrously good. And then when you're talking the new Cav models, absolutely fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. For those of you that love like the actual monster trucks, you're in absolute heaven. I am not saying that the others are bad, but as it stands right now, Maw Cult Fanatics is probably the automatic choice. And you know what that means? It means it's going to cost us probably 10 to 20 points to use this in the not too distant future. So be prepared for that. I'm going to tell you right now, I'd pay 20 points for this regiment easily, like without even thinking. 100% I'd pay 20 points for that. The movement one, which was the one of the movement, each target, yeah, that's the Hunger-Filled Tribe. For each unit that was destroyed this turn, pick a friendly Ogre Mawtribes unit that is not in combat and has not used a power through command. Each target can move 3 inches. It can move through combat ranges of enemy units and end that move in combat. Is this good? Heck yeah. This is good. It's a solid option. The problem is the way they design these things is typically there's one obvious choice, and this is the obvious choice, and that is the Maw Cult Fanatics. I have not, it's been absolutely phenomenally good. All right, so that is the actual battle formations. Again, we'll touch upon heroic traits. Again, folks, I don't think I'm saying anything that a bunch of channels haven't already said. I just want to zip through these just for completion's sake. The heroic traits, they're all good. Leave not a morsel. I tried that out and I found it kind of corner case, meaning not every army heals. When you do get into those matchups, it is great. But what I found was typically when I contact a thing with ogres, it just dies. Like, just gets obliterated. And anything that heals like D3 back is probably, if it's a big unit and it heals D3 back, I don't care. I typically don't. Almost assuredly, you'll just wipe everything out. So I just found the leave not a morsel to be better on paper than in actual practice. The dreaded far and wide. Dreaded far and wide takes the stats of the hero and it can't be modified negatively. No, yeah, ignore negative modifiers to your attacks, your to wounds, your movement, your charges, and all that. And that's cool, but it works best on your hero that is mounted on a big thing. So if you take a tyrant on a Glutthorn, the big giant monster, this would work out really well. If you have a favorite monster truck that you want to use, this would work out all right as well. But the one I've been enjoying the most out of these heroic traits is the Crusher Guts as an opportunity to just delete an army, delete a model from a unit. All you have to do is roll above their wound. It's not equal to or above, it is above. You got to exceed the target's health characteristic. But it does have another really interesting perk. If you kill a guy, the unit cannot pile in. That is super cool. So single model units you can follow in with a hero and maybe contact with the unit with one guy and have the rest trailing back to just outside of 3 inches, basically. And on a 2+, if they have 1 wound, you kill a guy, but now they cannot pile, freezing the unit in place. That's almost a quasi-strike first. Because what's in contact with the heroes, what's in contact and what can swing against that hero. And that usually means just a handful of guys. And that's not going to pick up a tyrant, or is not going to pick up a big giant monster. Now, if you have engaged in multiple fronts, you could just leave that till much later. And if they actually run out of activations, they might have to activate here where they're in essence trapped and frozen, activate and just swing with just a few people, and then it's your activation, and then you pile in with say a big unit of gluttons all going in, and you got like a quasi-strike first. I think by far the Crusher Guts is a little temperamental, not guaranteed for sure, and it's not going to be perfect in every choice, but I think it's the heroic trait to take. Artifacts of power. When it comes to artifacts of power, all of them are, some are better than others, obviously. They're not terrible. The one standout is the trophy rack. And the downside of the trophy rack is the unit, your buddy unit has to be wholly within 6. But while they're wholly within 6, during your deployment phase, you can look across your opponent's army, and if they took a lot of monsters, the unit that's wholly within 6 could get +1 Rend versus them. Or if they took a lot of war machines, like say you had a corner case where you're facing off against Hellsmiths, and the vast majority of their armies is war machines, you can get an extra Rend versus that. If their army is mostly cavalry, you could get an extra Rend versus that. It is kind of hard to position, though. This is not something that is easy and flexible. Your hero, the unit has to be wholly within 6 of that hero to get that benefit. So basically what you're doing is you're moving up with the unit, you're nesting that hero within that unit more or less as like a crescent donut. So if this is the hero, you're kind of doing this with the unit, and say, come at me. You're rolling for priorities. If you don't come at me, then you could burst out. So it's like a charging deterrent, I guess would be the way to use it. This would be difficult to use actively on the attack because of that really limited range of 6 inches. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not overly hard to get a unit of 10 gluttons around, say, a tyrant or a butcher. It's just, it's hard to use it proactively. You would have to, the tyrant would have to then make it also into combat as well as the unit, and then maybe you can get it to happen. And I'm not saying that can't happen. It's just a little bit more difficult to line up. Probably the best artifact out of the book, without looking at the Scourge of Akshi. At the time of this recording, the seasonal rules are called Scourge of Akshi, and we're not reviewing those. We're just reviewing the book today. So this is out of the book. Trophy rack is probably your best choice. Again, I don't think I'm saying anything that a bunch of channels haven't already said. All right, so let's look at now the spell lore. To quickly go through that, the standout spell is Blood Feast. What the heck is Blood Feast? It's cast on a 6. Pick a unit wholly within 12, and they get +1 to hit while wholly within 12 of the caster, if I'm not mistaken, or just +1 to hit. No, just +1 to hit. They have to be wholly within 12 for you to target them, and then they can move off, and they have +1 to hit. This spell is our unlimited spell, and it is absolutely phenomenal. And one of the things I was quite shocked about, Usually the destruction guys don't get this kind of compensatory type of treatment. What I mean by that is, it seems when they're working on the order books, if there's a weakness within the book, there's a built-in way to get around it. They get tools provided to them to get around things. Whereas typically the destruction guys is, here's your weakness. Yep. That's what we're stuck with. This is amazing. Whole army hits on 4s. To go to 3s and then 2s to wound is absolutely fantastic. At a 6 cast, you can now cast this on your opponent's turn. And then you're like going, cast on your opponent's turn? Doesn't it go away when it hits your hero phase? Yes, it does. So you're spending a CP to get a +1 to hit? Yes, I am. Now, why am I doing that? It's to just set up for the charge and to make things even more difficult for my opponent. Typically, I'm setting up on the line of scrimmage, and then off you go. You want me, I'm there. But I'm going to get a +1 to hit. You know what that means? On gluttons, it means I still have an all-out defense in my back pocket that I can use because I don't need it for +1 to hit. And good luck lifting 40 wounds. Again, we'll get to that in the next little bit. But man, +1 to hit has been absolutely glorious. I mean, on my army list, it says manifestations, Aetherrot machineries, and I guess it is there. But I could tell you, I barely touch the manifestations. I am typically always casting Blood Feast. I'm currently running 2 Butchers, but that's just because of my collection, and the new stuff isn't all out yet. But I thought it was kind of a bit of a joke running 2 Butchers, but they've been good. They've been good. And this spell's just been absolutely fantastic. The other great spell is Shin Cruncher. And this is until the start of the next turn. Each time the target moves, ends a move, or a setup on the battlefield, inflict D3 mortal wounds. Now, this is when it ends a move. And it's any move. A pile-in move is an end of a move. A redeploy is an end of a move. A move is a move. So you could really creep a lot of mortal wound damage on an opponent's units by just doing this. Great spell, but Butchers are only 2 casts. Yes, there is a special hero that could cast 2 spells, so he would be the guy that would be doing it. But typically, unless you're running that special hero, you're probably casting Blood Feast. There's really no better option. And it's cast on a 6, where this spell's cast on a 7. Speaking of a 7, there is also Talaflage. And this is until the start of the next turn. The target is not visible to enemy units more than 12 inches away. It's what the 40k guys call Lone Op. And this is a Lone Op at 12 inches. So the enemy to target my Ogre units that are under this shadow, you have to be within 12 inches to do so. Is this good? Absolutely. And against certain shooting matchups like KO and even Hellsmiths, actually. Being able to cast this on your opponent's turn, let's say it's their turn, and say that your unit of Mauler Beast can't be targeted unless you're within 12. Absolutely incredible. So a great clutch spell, but it is cast on a 7, which means you need to cast it on an 8 on your opponent's turn. A little bit difficult. You can cast it on your turn as a setup, but again, you're probably aiming for Blood Feast. +1 to hit is such a tremendous, tremendous ability. And then we go to the Prayer Lore. Just to touch upon it, I gotta say I didn't get an opportunity to use the Prayer Lord much. Unfortunately, Ogres do not have a priest that's on foot. Breaks my heart. The only priest that is available to us is the Huskered, and the Huskered has to be on one of the monster trucks, either the Stonehorn or the Thunder Tusk, which provide its own mechanics. It's just a really expensive priest because they're on a monster, tilting the scales at around 300 points. I would have loved to be a butcher level priest, something that's 170 points, that I don't have to invest so much just to get access to this prayer lore. And unfortunately, there isn't a heroic trait in either the new season of Action, either that can just make one of your guys a priest. So if you love the prayer lore, and there's a lot to love in this, you're gonna need a Huskard. And the prayer lore until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the run rolls and charge rolls of target, add 2 instead if you do it on a 6+. This is actually chanted on a 3, and then on a 6, you're able to pull off the super ability. That is pure magic. That is, I need this. I roll a 3. 50-50 coin flip to do that. Brilliant. And then you're telling me 1 in 6, I get to pick 2 units? This is without me banking any points. This is like later on in the game, I just want to get a +1 to charge or +1 to run just to get onto something. This is such a fantastic prayer. I absolutely love the fact that this thing is chanted on a 3 and the super is on a 6+. Absolutely fantastic. And then there's Pulverizing Hailstorm, sorry. If the chanting roll is an 8+, you can pick another eligible unit. But basically, this is inflict 3 mortal wounds on a target unit within 12 inches. Absolutely fantastic. It can help score you a battle tactic. I believe, what is it, Blazing? That you want to do at least 1 damage in multiple phases. This gets you a damage spell because the gut lore, the gut magic, doesn't have a damaging spell really. It's got a conditional one if the opponent, but you don't get to do it on your turn and just hit a guy for damage in essence. So that's the downside of the Shin Cruncher. Whereas the Pulverizing Hailstorm is just drop 3 mortal wounds. I love the fact that it's just 3 mortal wounds. You need to finish off a thing that's just hanging on by its fingernails. Boom. It's such a great prayer. It is cast on a 4, so massive difference between 3 and 4. Just massive difference. It's now chucking just 1 die isn't necessarily going to pull it off, but an incredibly useful spell, or I should say prayer. And then Fortifying Hoarfrost. Until the start of the next turn, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target that friendly unit. In addition, if you get an 8+, that's your super. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the rend characteristic of weapons used. This prayer lord is just absolute gangbusters. And I'm really sorely tempted to take a Huskard on Stonehorn or Thundertusk. But like I said, he's 300 points. Let me know if you've had great success. Like, this looks like just an awful lot of fun. Prayer Lord is absolutely glorious. I just really wish we had a foot priest to do it. All right, so now we're getting into the War Scrolls. I just want to touch on this. Okay, make sure no one's... All right, hopefully all of you are having a great evening. Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't done so, folks, we really appreciate it. We're a teeny tiny channel. We'd love for you to come back. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so when we go live, maybe flash the thumbs up so you know when we're going live and we get more eyeballs on the channel. And that would be really nice to grow it. Let's get to the War Scrolls. I'm going to start off with the Glutton War Scroll. Now, the Gluttons... Why are we starting off with the Gluttons? The Gluttons are like the gold standard for this book. This is what you're going to use to just basically measure everything. The Gluttons are absolutely fantastic in this book. So briefly go through them. Stat-wise, they move 6 inches. That's what they did before. They have a 5-up save. That's what they had before. 4 wounds a pop, 2 control. Same thing. They have 4 attacks, 4s and 2s, rend 1, 2 flat damage. What is the massive difference? Wall of Meat. If they had not used the charge ability, if they have not used the charge this turn, add 1 to their save rolls. This happens in the shooting phase. This happens during covering fire. If I've not charged, I get +1 to my save. It doesn't sound like an enormous amount. For the guys who are more new to the game, +1 save, okay, sounds good, it's good, but why is this so glorious? It's 17 more or less percentage points in your favor. There's 6 sides to a dice. It's 16.66 onward, roughly 17 percentage points in your favor. And this is before you've used all-out defense. This means gluttons can really survive a charge very, very well. Which means these guys get the opportunity to punch back. And oh my goodness, do these guys punch back. These are 200 points for 20 wounds, 400 points for 40 wounds on basically a 4+ save unless you charge, which you can then all-out defense. From a durability perspective, absolutely intense. Offensively, these guys are 4 attacks apiece. A unit of 10 has 40 + 1 for the champion, 41 attacks. If that unit gets to go first and you all out attack, you're hitting on 3s and 2s 66% of the time out of 40. That is what? Out of 40 attacks, 24, 25 hits, of which you wound on 2s. So what are you going to do? Drop maybe 3, maybe 4, 20 wounding hits. At Rend 1, it's only Rend 1. Rend 1 is what is known as enough. It means if your opponent all-outs defense, he's on his base save. Well, that base save could be 3+. Yes, it can be, but it does mean a third of the attack squirrel through with 20 wounding hits. A third. That's a lot, folks. That's what? That's 6, 7 wounding. So that's 12 to 14 wounds. And that's if you don't spike and they don't flub. Gluttons are the absolute measuring stick of everything you're looking at in this book. Is that a downside? Maybe. Are they efficiently pointed? Absolutely. Do I love basic troopers when I'm choosing an army? Yes. And what did I do? I immediately locked on to gluttons as soon as I got my hands on the information. I thought they were absolutely great, in case someone goes like, yeah, but that's not what everyone has said. Yeah, I got on, we have a store Discord, and I got on there, and I just said straight off the bat that no, gluttons are the way to go. And they've been just testing absolutely phenomenal. I've been running 2 units of 10 gluttons. Just amazing. So on the turntable, if you get the camera on that guy, you'll get to see one of the new gluttons. And that is, I'm going to say the gray guy, but I guess technically they're both gray. The unpainted one. The unpainted one and the older painted one. I still love my gluttons from before. The new gluttons look absolutely phenomenal. They're proportional. So for those of you who don't own any ogres, these are beautiful models, wonderfully proportioned. The older models, if you notice, they have bigger components, I guess. Their heads are large. This has led to some complaints about the proportions of what the previous ogres were. But I'm not going to lie to you. I find the large heads to be really, really endearing. It feels like they suffer from gigantism, which is like what Andre the Giant kind of suffered from, are a lot of really giant people. They have overly large hands and overly large heads. And I find that so completely appropriate. I also love the personality of the old ogre line with their lumps, where their skulls have been hit so hard and the calcium buildup form knots on their faces. And I just think they look absolutely glorious. But the wonderful thing about the new gluttons is their armor. So here's something I have done now. I want to show you what I did. I'm going to pull off this champion right here, and I am going to actually show you what I did with my gluttons. There you go. All right, as you look at that, you'll notice they got a little bit of an upgrade. And I've been digging it. I love the new belly plate, for lack of a better term, so I've incorporated it into my old gluttons. I love the old models, and I think these belly plates look absolutely glorious. They're not going to show super well on camera, folks. I apologize for that, because they are black. I haven't gotten an opportunity to actually paint them. I now have basically 20 of these guys up to this point. I'm going to start painting them very, very soon. Yeah, I've just been really, really enjoying almost fusing the new with the old. And that's been my approach so far with my Ogre army. Nothing wrong, of course, going with the new models. The new models are absolutely stunning. Or, of course, not doing anything with your old models and just taking them as they are, because they are still absolutely ogres. And like I said, they look fantastic. All right. So have I said enough, gluttons? Absolutely incredible. All right. With that being the gold standard, let's talk about Morga the Mighty. Now, Morga is an absolute beast of a lady. She just pounds out the damage. She has some unique abilities, and I do want to talk about those unique abilities. But before we're doing that, she moves 10. She has 16 health. She has a 3-up base save. A 3-up base save is fantastic, and an OC, objective control of 10, which is absolutely glorious. She has 4 attacks, and she is one of the very few war scrolls that hit on a natural 3-up. So what does that mean? It means when she all-out attacks, she's 2s and 2s because she is still a monster. So 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage, and then her steed, which is Greta. Greta is her steed. I believe it's referred to as a Gluthorn. Am I right on that? Yeah, so the named Gluthorn is Greta. Has 8 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2, 3 flat damage as well. She will kick out lots of damage. Good quality damage. But why are you taking her? Well, you're taking her for a light snack, which is once per turn, army, any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the target's health characteristic, if the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, one model from that unit is eaten. You're taking her for the right motivation, which is pick a visible, friendly Ogre Mawtribes wholly within infantry unit, wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the following effects apply. While the target has not had any damage points allocated to it this phase, each time the unmodified hit roll of a combat attack that targets it is 1, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. And then it has a second bullet point. If the target has had any damage points allocated to it, in this phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the target's melee weapons. So a great offense, defense, splash damage thing. And then been there, done that, which is another incredible ability. Pick one of the following effects. If any enemy, non-monster models were slain by this unit's combat attacks this turn, heal D3. This is on top of your formation, which is heal D3, so she could heal 2D3. If any damage points are allocated to an enemy monster unit, she gets to heal even more. Heal D3 plus 3. Okay, so all in all, one of the cool things they did is she's riding a Gluthorn, and she looks at infantry. I know this doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal for me. Often the designers have, if you're on a horse, you could only look at horse units. Or if you're in infantry, you could only look at infantry units. You could be the leader of an army, and apparently you could only lead an aspect of it. That always bothered me about this edition of Age of Sigmar. And it's nice that she isn't just looking at Cav, but what's not nice is it's still only infantry. It's not any Ogor Mawtribes unit. So it's like, okay, I guess it's more of a balancing trait, to be fair. But it would be great if she just looked at everybody, because she's the leader of the army, and just inspired them and helped the entire army out. That would be great. Is she cool? She's 430 points. What's the gold standard in the book? If you're going by what I'm saying, gluttons. For 400 points, instead of 18 wounds on a 3-up, 16 wounds on a 3-up, you could get 40 wounds on a 4-up. Instead of 4 attacks that are really good quality, don't get me wrong, 3s and 2s, with 2 rend, I might add, 4 attacks, and then another 8 attacks with the kind of the same stat line, 4s and 2s, you get 41. This is my first issue I have with Morga, and I will own this model. That is not a question. The model's absolutely stunning. There's a lot of things you do when you're collecting an army. There's a lot of reasons. A lot of it's gaming, of course. And I am talking about the army from a gaming perspective. But the other portion is collecting. And she is a stunning model, both as a special character and as a generic character. I'll probably get both. I'll probably get 2. It's just, I cannot fit this thing in. 430 points. That's a no for me, dog. I just like, nah, man. I would much rather just have more gluttons than Morga. She doesn't make the cut for me. That doesn't mean she's not good. It just means from my competitive brain, as cool as Morga is, I would just much rather have the meat and the general output. I rather have 41 attacks. Yeah, they only hit on 50% of the time, but I'm chucking so many dice I could spike or at least get average. Whereas she's chucking 4 dice and 8 dice off her amount. And that is just swingy. She's 16 wounds. 16 wounds is a nice amount of wounds. I would have liked to have seen her hit 18, to be honest. I think as an ogre on top of a gigantic prehistoric mount, that 18 wounds would be something I think would be fine for this type of model. But yeah, 16 wounds, I even find her fragile, to be honest. It's a 3-up save, no wards. What do y'all think? I want to welcome, Battle of Pelennor Fields. Do you play Blood Bowl? I do occasionally play Blood Bowl. I used to play quite a bit of it in the past. Back when I worked for Games Workshop, we had an office league. Blood Bowl can be, oh my goodness, an absolutely infuriating game. All right, so let's talk about, or continue talking about ogres. Kragnos is in the book, like he is in every destruction book, because he's the demigod of destruction. Is he good for ogres? 3d6 charge, how's that bad for ogres? The thing is, I don't feel like the ogres really need him, though. And the reason I say that is he's 580 points or more. I don't know if he's more in ogres. And I would just rather have other ogre stuff rather than Kragnos. If you love Kragnos, more power to you. He's a great gaming piece, that is for certain. There was no War Scroll for that, Gaio, so you didn't miss anything, buddy. Let's get to Grell Firefist. That should have a slide. And Grell is an homage to the Leadbelchers of old. She has strapped a mortar to the side of her. She's a cool little model. She's an 8-wound model that's sitting on a 4-up save. A control score of 3, which is quite nice. What they did with all the foot heroes is they elevated their control score from 2 to 3. And this can be quite surprising on your opponent. I've had 2 heroes on there and just had an OC of 6 on an objective with just 2 heroes. It's certainly not nothing, and it adds up massively. She has a side cannon that is a 12-inch range, attacks D3 plus 2 shots, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, so 4s and 2s again. 2 really, really nice amount of rend, 2 rend and 2 damage. So what's really also super cool is if she focuses, meaning when she generates the amount of shots, if she puts all the shots into one target, she could dial that up to D6 plus 2 shots instead of D3 plus 2. So so D6 plus 2. So she can potentially have a higher ceiling if she focuses all her shots on one target. Pretty cool. What do we got? She's got Thunderous Diversion, which if your unit of ogres is in combat and she fires into the combat against the enemy unit, the unit of ogres can now use a retreat and charge ability. So what does that mean? The target can immediately use a retreat ability as if it were your movement phase and can still use a charge ability later in the turn. No mortal damage is inflicted. Now, the condition for this to happen is she needs to have done at least some damage to the unit she shot at. And then you get to pull off this absolutely spectacular ability. I've seen some reviews of her saying, she seems all right. I think she's absolutely fantastic. She'll be probably in the majority of my list. She's 150 points. At 150 points, she's in the same price point as a Tyrant, and that's completely fine. Her stats are fine. She does a good amount of melee damage if that really matters to you. 4 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 2 flat damage. She has crit mortals. So she does 1 less damage in melee than a regular Tyrant does, but she has this incredibly cool piece of tech with her cannon that allows your units to retreat immediately, and then when it hits your charge phase to be able to charge in again. That's another bull charge. You have units in your army that unlock extra damage when charges, or at least their mounts do. That's amazing. It allows you to retreat and then charge something else. Like, out of activation movement is absolutely brilliant. Don't look at Grell as just a shooting piece. Look at her as like a wizard that when she shoots her lightning bolts at things, you get to do these cool movement tricks. Except it's not really casting, and the odds of you actually completing that action are really, really good. She's just amazing. 6-inch move with a 12-inch range is enough. Having her behind your rows of gluttons is enough. You can have your mauler beasts in there. She can fire at them. They are able to immediately retreat and then charge something else. That is just absolutely fantastic. She has another ability called Oi, pay attention, slobs. And that is you must allocate D3 damage to another visible friendly Ogor Mawtribes unit within 3 of her. Ward rolls cannot be used to negate this damage. Then that command has no effect and still counts as having been used, and the command point is still spent. This is triggered on when an opponent declared a command ability and is within 6 inches of this unit. So she has a further tech of potentially denying an all-out defense or an all-out attack. All-out defense being primarily what she's absolutely amazing for, because you could maneuver your gluttons, run her so that she's within 6 of the unit, charge with the gluttons right after that. And now when they all out defense, you go, well, let's see here. I'm going to allocate D3 mortal wounds to my gluttons. An ogre doesn't even die at that point. You lose nobody. And then you just literally deny their command. and they've spent the CP. I absolutely love Grell. Really looking forward. The model looks cool too. She's a fantastic, fantastic piece. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Then we got the Tyrant on Gluthorn. The Tyrant on Gluthorn is only hits fractionally less than Morga, but gives kind of this really neat reroll on a charge. You get to pick one of your dies in a unit wholly within 12. So pick a unit wholly within 12 that declared a charge. You get to pick one of their dies and re-roll it. So that ability is good. What's also amazing is she has the Gluthorn Stampede, which is the ability to potentially hand out a strike last. So it happens on a 4+. The roll has, if the target that you're trying to make strike last is an infantry unit, you get +1 to that roll. So on a 3+ versus infantry units, and they just gain strike last. So otherwise it's a coin flip on a 4+, but if it's infantry units on a 3+. Again, the same downside, 400 points for the Tyrant on Gluthorn. And so far, I have opted, even if I had the model, I would opt to take a unit of reinforced Gluttons over the Tyrant on Gluthorn. I know, beautiful model, looks sweet, but Gluttons for 400 points are just 40 wounds in comparison to 16. Like, so much attacks. They're just so fantastic. So Tyrant on Gluthorn. Do I want it for my collection? Absolutely I do. And now let's get to a unit, another hero on foot, that being the Tyrant. Now the Tyrant is tipping the scales at 150 points. It's at 8 wounds, a 4+ save, OC3, 6-inch moving little guy. He has 4 attacks, 4 is 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage, crit mortal wounds. Crit mortal wounds. I'm going to go to the turntables, and I got one of the new ones primed, so I'll just put it right there. The new model just looks absolutely fantastic. I think Tyrants are glorious. So like I did with my Gluttons, I also modified my Tyrant. Again, I love that new belly plate. So I added it to the previous what am I trying to say? Tyrant. There you go. I eventually got there. It just looks super, super cool. I just love that gut plate. Anyway, the tech this thing has is a big name. If you're running multiple Tyrants, you can't use the same name across all of them. Initially, I thought that was the case, but it states it black and white, that if you pick one, that's his big name. No one else can use it. What are the big names that you can pick? If the enemy's infantry that have a health characteristic of 1 or 2 count as OC of 0. Absolutely fantastic. Then you got Steed Eater. Enemy cavalry units cannot use retreat abilities while engaged in combat with a Tyrant. And then you got the Giant Wrestler, which is each enemy monster cannot use rampage abilities. All 3 of these things are just fantastic. I really, really adore Tyrants. And the other fantastic thing about Tyrants is they do a chain activation with Gluttons. And you already know how I feel about Gluttons. It means after this guy gets to go, he adds a +1 to hit to the Gluttons, which is glorious. It's another CP efficiency trick that you do not have to all-out attack. You can swing with this guy, then swing with Gluttons, and then Gluttons, if they're engaged with another enemy, still have the ability to all-out defense. I really like Tyrants. Yeah, I don't have anything more to say. Tyrants are so, so good. At 150 points, in combination as well with the formation of being able to reduce rend from eat 'em alive. So the Tyrant swings, reduced rend coming in. This guy becomes a real thorn in your side. It's not that he's indestructible, but he's 150 points. At 8 wounds, with the ability to go, hey, you know what, I'm going to reduce rend of attacks coming at me. You can't just lift him casually. You do have to swing at him with something that is actually genuinely good. That in and of itself has a massive value. Because if you keep on ignoring the tyrant's going to keep on hyping up the gluttons. And it's rare that you're not in combat with gluttons at the same time as the tyrant. So he has a tendency to disappear. Passing on a few attacks to do some chip damage is worthless because, again, why? The formation. You get to heal D3 at the end of the turn as well. These little foot heroes hang. And again, at 150 points, I really, really dig tyrants. All right, next scroll. I'm going to pull these off the turntable. All right. Tyrant number 1, tyrant number 2. Let's get to Mauler Beast War Scroll. And the Mauler Beast Cav is another unit in a long lineup of phenomenal units in the army. Mauler Beast Cav have 7 wounds apiece, 10-inch move, a base save of 3+, and an OC of 3 apiece. So they come in units of 2. They're 280 points for 2 models. These are 14 wounds combined with a 3-up save. If it was just that, you'd be like, well, how about more gluttons? But they have more tech. And the tech is they have a passive ability that says enemy units do not count as having charge while they're in combat with this unit. This is really big. Also moves 10 inches. Really, really big. Gluttons are cool. Gluttons don't move 10. These guys' output, pretty amazing. So they have gut biter weapons, as they call it. This is each rider. Each rider has 3 attacks, 4s, 2s, because they love 4s and 2s. 2 rend, 3 flat damage. And then the Mauler Beast, horns and fangs. This is the thing I was telling you about before. They get a charge bonus of +1 damage, okay? So they're 4 attacks, 4s and 2s, only 1 rend, but still, what is 1 rend? Enough. 2 flat damage, but on a charge, they're 3 flat damage. So let's go back to Grell. We're not going to actually flash her War Scroll, but just think about her for a second. You charge with this for some reason. I don't know why. You didn't just lift the thing. It still hung out. Grell fires into that combat. Now these beasts get to move out of combat, retreat. That's 10-inch move. And now you're still able to charge something else. Those 2, Grell and Maul Beasts, absolutely fantastic. They also have Shock and Gore, which basically means it's a combat phase ability, and on a 3+, you reduce you subtract 1 from the wound of attacks coming at them. Oh, sorry, pardon me, that is not true. On a 3+, for the rest of the turn, subtract 1 from the wound rolls for the target's attacks. I apologize. That's a massive difference. That means my Mauler Beasts go in, and let's say I have gluttons over here. Mauler Beasts kick off 3+. You're now, every time you swing, you're at -1 to wound, whether you swing at my cav or my gluttons. You're just at -1 to wound for that trait. Now, these can be reinforced. 560 points for 4 Mauler Beasts. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but at 4 is 28 wounds. You're right, it's not 40, but it is a 3-up save. And it moves all 10 inches. And it just kicks out, just from the riders alone, is 13 attacks because of the champion. 13 attacks hitting on 4s and 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage. And then the Mauler Feast at the bottom, 16 attacks at 4s, 2s, 1 rend, 3 flat damage on the charge. That is just a phenomenal amount of damage. And in combination with the tech, with the passive ability of denying abilities, you just don't count as charging, massive. That means all that cav that unlocks extra damage does not get it. You could go into cities and they can charge you after you charge them, and they'll charge you and they will not get an extra rend. They will not get any extra damage. And that is just absolutely massive. Like there's no other way to put that. Mauler Beasts are a really cool tech piece that is also outputty. Phenomenal models. All right, so what did I do with my Mauler Beasts? Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. All right, it's a show and tell time. I want to show you, this is, here we go, boom. This is a Rhinox. These are Forge World models, released donkeys years ago. Over the years, I've tracked down more of them. I really, really loved these models when they initially came out. And that on the Ogre that's on top is the model that the Rhinox came with. And then I added little packs and what have you to the back. And I just love this model. So because I love my old Ogres, I am planning on using these as my Mauler Beasts. But like my Gluttons, where I started fusing components together, the rider is pretty cool on this. But let me show you what I did. There we go. That is a Mauler Beast, carved off the Mauler Beast, saddle and all, and mounted on top of the actual Rhinox. I just love the new model range, and it combines, I think, super well. This is a Rhinox that I had tracked down. It actually was owned by somebody else, painted by somebody else, so I felt less bad about clipping off the rider. It takes a bit of a leap of faith when you're doing conversions. There are moves you just don't take back, obviously. So when you're carving up the actual Mauler Beast cav, it feels really bad because they're new models and they're not cheap, and you're just hoping that the conversion works out. So that's the actual champ. Here, let me show you another one, because I've done 3 of them actually. So there's another one. And the saddle fits beautifully on the Rhinox. I just love the models. I think they just look absolutely fantastic. So there's one tour or one swing. All right, this one isn't glued down yet, and I just wanted to show you what the process looks like. All right, so here's another one. This one's a bit more kit bashed. The rider, I wanted a variation, so I started using the body that they didn't necessarily recommend, attached arms that didn't necessarily recommend, and started kit bashing it. Again, this is on a Rhinox that I did own. This is the one of the ones I painted. And what I wanted to show you is this. That's what it looks like. So that big, giant, massive scar that's going to be painted like leather is hiding underneath this saddle. And it just sits just like so. There you go. And I think it looks absolutely really, really cool. And it is my unique Mauler Beast. This is how much I love this unit. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to convert, and I got one more to do. Hoping to finish it off. Well, finish converting it over this next coming weekend. And then I can actually start painting and getting these guys up to snuff. So Mawtribes, I think, are 100% worth it. 560 points, I know sounds like a lot, but a thing is only not worth it if it's not worth it. I don't know how else to say that. Mawtribes are well worth it. I'm not saying they're broken. They're not dirt cheap by any stretch of the imagination. I can easily see a world where I'm taking 3 units of 10 gluttons. Absolutely, I could. I just really like I like my gaming pieces. I like their tech. But yeah, you could just say, nah, those are too expensive. I'd rather take something else. And I could completely understand that. I just really like the Mawtribes calf. All right, so now we go into Iron Guts. Iron Guts are an interesting unit. There's the pauses there is because of what they did to, I guess, leverage. So these guys are a units of 3. 4 wounds apiece, base save of 4+. Okay, so a base save of 4. Move 6, OC2 like the majority of the Ogres on foot. These are 3 models that have 3 attacks apiece instead of 4. 3 attacks. 4s, 2s, but all of their attacks are 2 rend and 3 flat damage. Now, if you're just looking at that, sounds pretty amazing. It's 3 of them for 200 points. So, put in perspective in the comparable. So we're comparing it to Gluttons, because that's the gold standard. For 200 points, I get 5 Gluttons at 4 wounds apiece. That's 20 wounds. Right? That's 21 attacks. For 200 points, I get 12 wounds, 10 attacks. Now, granted, it's an additional rend and an additional damage. But this just feels still too pricey. Now, there's more to them, to be fair. Let's be fair to the Iron Guts. And I don't think the designers were way off on the points cost of this unit, by the way. They also have a rule called personal enforcers, and any foot heroes that are within combat range, so within 3 inches of them, get a 5-up ward, and so do they. So these guys can be on a natural 4-up base save with a 5-up ward, giving your foot models, your foot heroes, a 5-up ward as well. That is not nothing. And then they have displays of might, which means if these guys charge in, if anyone else has done a bull charge, they could still do a bull charge. 400 points gets you a unit of 6 of them. That's 24 wounds on a 4+ with a potential very easy to engineer 5+ ward save. 6 of them have 19 attacks with an additional rend over gluttons and an additional damage. From just the damage output, these guys don't do the same. You math it out, it's not the same amount of damage as a unit of 10 gluttons. Like by a significant margin, by enough. From a defensive output, also not enough. They're not as defensive as a unit of 10 gluttons. 40 wounds, yeah, it doesn't have a ward save. Okay, it's 40 wounds. Iron Guts at 200 points seem a bit too expensive. I would have loved them to be at units of 4. I think at a unit of 4, they would have been a good, solid unit, for sure. That would have amped up their durability. It would have amped up their output, and now they would have to cost more points. That's fine. I would have been happy to pay an extra 20 points maybe for that. But at units of 3, topping off a unit to a maximum of 6, it does give your foot heroes a 5-up ward. And again, I can't stress, 5-up ward is absolutely glorious. Don't get me wrong. They make a cool supporting unit, but man, I'd just rather have another 10 Gluttons. That's basically what it boils right down to. The models are sick. The new Iron Guts look absolutely fantastic. And glorious. If you own the old Iron Guts, I'm going to drop some old Iron Guts. These haven't been touched yet or converted to add any cool gut plates. These models are still really, really cool. I love the older, I should say, Iron Guts. These are the older ones. The new ones look absolutely gorgeous. If I do the new Iron Guts, I'll probably use these models because, again, I really love these models. And I will probably incorporate their new gut plate to kind of zhuzh them up and get them to look more modern. But I love these guys. I think they look awesome. They look awesome. So those are the Iron Guts. I just don't think they're necessarily worth it. There's nothing more to say about that. We're going to touch quickly upon an Iron Blaster and a Nobbler Scrap Launcher. These are some of the range elements that the new Ogor Mawtribes have. And these are classics. These are old models, options that we had before. The Iron Blaster is 180 points. It is a 9-inch moving, in essence, chariot being pulled by a Rhinox, as it just so happens. It has 9 health, a 4-up save. I wish it had a 3 control. I think this could have been justified. An OC of 3 on both the Iron Blaster and the Nobbler Scrap Launcher, I think would have been something that would have been fine. But whatever. The Iron Blaster cannon shot has an 18-inch range, 2 shots, 4s, 2s, 2 Ren, 5 flat damage. That's really, really quite nice. And then it does some damage in combat. Once per turn, you can have one, I believe it is one, once per turn army, your shooting phase. You can have one fire a solid shot, so to speak. You pick an enemy unit visible within 18, and then any unit that line crosses on a roll of 3+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Inflict D3 damage on each collateral damage target. Yeah. You gotta read the whole entire thing. If this unit has not used a run or retreat ability this turn, pick a visible enemy unit within 18. Then draw a straight line between the closest points on the bases of this unit and the target unit. And then each other unit, friendly or enemy, that the line passes across is a collateral damage target. So there you go. So you could splash some wicked amount of damage. It actually makes it, gets you get around, how would you say it? Sorry. The ability to target units that are close to other units, because it doesn't matter. It's not relying on it to hit. You just need to roll a 3+. Honestly, that's basically the same, I guess. You're hitting on a 3+, though. It's actually better odds than what it would normally be able to hit. And then you can inflict some mortal damage. That just sounds really good. Iron Blaster is not bad. The Nobbler Scrap Launcher, again, it's got it's 9 wounds, a 9-inch move, 4-up save. It shoots 12 times at an 18-inch range, and anything that is hit by it or taking damage by it, you subtract, until the start of your next turn, subtract X from the target's move characteristics to a minimum move characteristic 1, where X is the number of damage points allocated to the target this phase by this unit's shooting attack. Then roll a dice on a 3+ until the start of your next turn. The target cannot use any run or retreat. Like, this is a lot of tech for something that costs 160 points. Like, I don't think you'd feel bad about using a scrap launcher. And I could definitely see a scrap launcher making some lists. Iron Blaster just for shits and giggles. Probably the scrap launcher is more useful just because of the tech. Because honestly, the army doesn't really need more damage. What it really needs is more tricks. And the scrap launcher would allow you to potentially pin a unit and keep it out of that combat, so you could bully other stuff on the battlefield. And I think that is probably where I'd go with that. All right, so the scrap launcher, pretty darn good. And now, before we getting into the Beast Claw Raider side, I'm just going to touch on the chat, see if there's any of you out there that have any questions. Ice Blade, that looks awesome. Ogres are absolutely awesome. Fonzie, hey man, ogres are looking pretty solid. Yes. Ogres are looking absolutely phenomenal. I've been super enjoying playing with the new ogres. It's a lot of fun. It's nice playing with an army that has rules, that has abilities, that has a lot of interaction, that is just good at something. Where a destruction army should be, this is a melee, they primarily inflict damage through melee, and guess what? They're really good at it. Okay, cool. So they're not great wizards? No, they're not great wizards. Okay, cool. So not the best shooting army in the game? No. But you are good at something, which is punch and face. Amazing. And I'm actually good at it. Love to hear it. All right, so let's talk Beast Claw Raiders. The Beast Claw Raiders kind of lost a lot of their shine. They're not useless. My issue I have is the standout war scroll when it comes to monster trucks is the Huskard. And then everything else kind of just falls by the wayside. The Frost Lord used to be the big damage dealer, and now he's just okay. He's 300. I don't even have a slide for you because I didn't want to waste time with the actual Frost Lord. He's 340 points. I would not spend that on him. His standout feature is he's OC 10. So if you love your monster trucks, you could definitely play the objective grab game with them. Pretty darn good. It's just, he's got a Frost Spear, 4 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 2 damage. If he charges, he gets to do 3 damage. Okay, cool. That's not a standout feature. He really doesn't have any tech, really, that I care about. He just looks at himself. He just kind of makes himself better. He becomes a little bit more defensive, but not enough to actually matter. And the Frost Lord on Thunder Tusk, pardon me, folks, 280 points to be fair, but now has some sort of shooting tech. And then at these points, 340, 280, how about I take a Huskard instead? So let's go to the Huskard. Here's a Huskard on Stonehorde, 300 points. So this is 40 points less than a Frost Lord. Now granted, he's not the fighter that the Frost Lord is, but honestly, what do I care? He fights enough. He's got a shooting attack, if you want to call it that, 15 inches, 1 attack, hits on 4s, complete coin flip. Most of the time, he'll not do anything. His punches and kicks are 4 attacks, 4s, 2s, 1 rend, 1 damage. And where he gets the majority of his damage is from his mount itself, which is 7 attacks, 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 3 damage. So good amount of damage potential out of the Stonehorn. Now, to defend the Frost Lord, the Huskard is 14 wounds instead of 15. Sorry, folks. Cool. You know why I love the Huskard? He's a priest. Done. Did we not just review that Prayer Lord? Or sorry, the Prayer Lord? The Prayer Lord is absolutely glorious, and it helps my entire army. Why would I take a Frost Lord? Seriously, give me one moment. I need a drink. I didn't want to do this on camera. Hopefully I don't make any weird sounds. Drinking on camera is just a terrible thing to do. Hopefully I didn't gross any of you out. All right, the Huskard on Stonehorn is absolutely fantastic, simply because he is a priest. At 300 points, I'm not going to lie, that's a bit of a hard pill to swallow. But, I mean, he is 14 wound model, can kick out a good amount of damage. But here's the thing he has that actually makes him stand out. Primal Bellow. Okay, so what does that do? Pick a friendly Ogre Mawtribes unit. Friendly Ogre Mawtribes unit within this unit's combat range to be the target. Or pick an enemy unit to be the that's in combat to be the target. So first off, love it. Why? He's a guy running a monster, and his rule looks at my whole entire army. He's a general that looks at my entire army like a general should. Fantastic. So what does it do? Roll a dice. Add 2 to the roll if this unit charges this turn. It happens on a 4+, so if you charge, happens on a 2+. If the target is a friendly unit, companion weapons have crit 2 hits. So you love Mawtribes. Send both of these at a target. And now the Mawtribes that have 4 attacks apiece, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, granted only 1 rend, but 3 damage because they charge, now get crit hits. So basically a unit of 4 that has 16 attacks hits 16 times. Because you're going to roll some 6s, you're going to roll some 1s. It all kind of averages out. On average, you hit 16 times. That is absolutely glorious. And on top of that, he's a priest. Okay. Now, if the target is an enemy unit, subtract 1 from the hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. Holy cow, a -1 to... You hand out a -1 to hit. Instead of everyone just hitting us with -1s, and by us I mean the entire faction of destruction gets absolutely punished by... because we only hit on 4s. We have the opportunity of handing it out. This is not a spell. This is a fairly reliable ability that triggers on a 2+ when you charge. And you get the priest. Huskard, I think, is where it's at. I did not play many games at all with a Huskard. But if you have it in your collection, you can easily turn that Frost Lord into a Huskard and have a great time. The Thunder Tusk version hands out snowballs, like starts shooting snowballs, has a really cool ranged attack. Also, obviously, still a priest. And it has a freezing aura. If this unit did not charge, pick an enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, subtract 1 for the attacks characteristic of melee attacks, melee weapons for the rest of the turn. I'm not as big a fan of this one. This is more of a reactive thing, but if that's what you want to do and you want to make your opponent feel even worse about charging you, you can put, say, your Huskard Thunder Tusk, again, in a semicircle around so that he could be engaged if you're within 3 in multiple directions. Make it awkward for your opponent. And now your Gluttons not only get +1 save, but they get -1 to their attacks. That's backbreaking. Like you, although this is not as big, I like to be a little bit more proactive. I could completely see why someone would love this. Because like I said, the range attacks on this thing is Ice Blast. The only downside, it's 1 attack that hits on 4s. But if you hit on 4s, you do wound on 2s. Only 1 rend, but D3 +2 damage. 280 points. 280 points. He's your cheap priest, I guess. That could play a bit of a supportive role as you advance up. I just think if I'm in the market for a Thunder Tusk, I'm probably in the market for 20 more points. I'll probably want the Stonehorn instead. Okay. So that is the Huskard. And now, like I said, when I'm looking at all the other monster trucks that are not priests, they have marginal, like 1 additional wound. Okay, cool. 1 additional attack, maybe, or maybe 1 additional rend. I'm not saying that's nothing, but when you're talking 4 attacks, it's underwhelming. I think I would just rather have an army of priests, I guess, and just, summon the winter storms from heaven and just rock across the battlefield that way. Let's talk about the next War Scroll, which is the Bloodpelt Hunter. The Bloodpelt Hunter is the model that came out a little while ago. It's the most recent Ogre model. It's the one with the pinhead. And we call it a pinhead because all the Ogor models, again, remember, the older model range had gigantism. They had the larger craniums, and this guy had a little tiny head, so it didn't really fit. This guy fits way better now in the new Ogor army. So if you love the model, this model's still great. I still find his head to be a little too tiny, but just a touch though. Not as bad when it's beside the new Ogor range for sure. What's cool about this? Okay. Oh, of note, you also have to take in consideration when you're talking Beast Claw Raiders, you have the option to keep them off table, and they could come on the table wholly within 9 inches of any table edge. So when you're looking at when I'm talking about these Beast Claw Raider stuff, all the Beast Claw Raider stuff can do that. That's kind of cool. So you could have some Priestley Scout monster trucks. Is there an army in the mix there? I don't know. Maybe there is. All right, anyway, Blood Pelt Hunter. Let's talk about him. He's 8 wounds, like all the foot heroes are. Also known as just a great amount of wounds. 6-inch move, 5-up save, which is decent. 3 control, which is just absolutely awesome. He's basically a monster hunter. His Skull Shatter crossbow is anti-monster 1 rend, 15-inch range, 4 attacks. It hits on 4s, and for the very first time, we see wounding on 3+. Everything else wounds on 2s, except for this. This wounds on a 3+. And they probably did that because it was maybe a little too gross. Against monsters, it's rend 2, otherwise rend 1, and it does D3 plus 1 damage. And then it does some attacks in combat, which are not inconsequential, but nothing to write home about. The big thing about this is what the effects it has on monsters. So when this thing shoots at monsters at rend 1, and instead of D3 plus 1 damage, it does 4 flat damage. These are 4 attacks, so 2 hit, 1 probably wounds, 2 rend, 4 flat damage. Not bad. But the big deal is this. The first shot is mine. This is once per turn army, your shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage allocated to it this turn by this unit's shooting attacks to be the target. And then for the rest of the phase, okay, phase only, so that's shooting phase, add 1 to the hit rolls for shooting attacks made by friendly Beast Claw Raider units that target that enemy unit. That is why it wounds on a 3+. Because hot dang. We're going to drop a pin in that, but that is gross. But we'll get back to why it's gross in a second. This is 130 points. In and of itself, without that rule, it's very good at 130 points. Nice little side hero that could pop on the edge of a board, because again, it's a Beast Claw Raider unit. Set it off the board, bring it onto the board, wholly within 9 inches away from the enemy. It acts like a cool little infiltrator ambushing unit. Great into the current meta. Monsters are scattered all over the place. To be able to potentially tag a thing for 4 flat damage, absolutely fantastic. And if it spikes, it can actually do some really nasty damage. For 130 points, Blood Pelt Hunter, I rate it. Very good unit. We are not going to cover the Man Trapper. If you think it's absolutely fantastic, you live your life. It is not a unit I am interested in. But I'm going to tell you about a unit that I am interested in, and that is the Hunters with the Saber Fangs. Now, at this point, if you haven't already heard, Hunters are absolutely glorious. But let me kind of like push the envelope for you a little bit more. These guys are basically ogres. So 6-inch move, 4 health, 5-up save, 2 control. Cool. Their Hunter crossbow, again, really good at targeting monsters to get an extra rend. Anti-monster, okay? But this is a 15-inch range, 3 shots, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. So another crossbow that only wounds on 3s. Only 1 rend, 2 flat damage. Unless, of course, it's firing at a monster, then it's 2 rend, 2 flat damage. In a unit of Hunters, there's 3 of these guys. So these are 9 shots. 9 shots, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, 2 rend into a monster, 2 flat damage, or 1 rend into any unit, 2 flat damage. It also then has Saber Cats. The Saber Cats add to the unit's melee output and have 4 attacks apiece. There's 2 cats in the actual unit. 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. Nothing much to really write home about. But we'll get to the cats in a little bit. Let's touch upon the melee attacks of the hunters themselves. They whip out their skinning blades, and these little fiends have anti-monster with the crossbows, and then they have anti-monster and anti-cavalry with their skinning blades. Only 2 attacks apiece, so 6 attacks. Do these guys have a champion? They do. All right. So a champion means an extra shot and an extra attack in melee. So in any case, so 7 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s. Why? Because they're ogres. Rend 1, unless of course they're hitting cav, which is actually quite common, or monsters, rend 2, 1 damage. Okay. Overall, this unit is already sounding pretty glorious. Let's just touch upon what they can do. They can go off table, then come on to table, like a lot of the Beast Call Raider stuff can. Let's talk about the ferocious saber fangs. Once per turn army, any combat phase, any enemy that charges them, you roll 2 dice for every saber fang. So a unit has 2 saber fangs, so 4 dice. For each 3+, you inflict 1 mortal damage to the target. All right, we set a whole bunch of rules. Let's now use our mind palace and project out exactly what this actually means in the game. First off, this unit can be reinforced. So your 3 ogres that have crossbows could be 6 ogres with crossbows. Each one fires 3 shots apiece, plus a champion shot. So what is that? That's 18, 19 shots. Hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, hitting monsters at rend 2, 2 flat damage. This unit is 160 points, reinforced 320, and worth every single penny. When this unit is firing 19 shots into your infantry unit, yeah, sure, it's only 1 rend. Also known as what? Enough. When they all out the fence, right back to their base save, whatever squirrels through is 2 flat damage apiece. And by the way, that was only my first unit of hunters. Because you know what's better than 1 reinforced unit of hunters? 2 reinforced unit of hunters. And you know what's better than 2 reinforced units of hunters? 4 reinforced units of hunters. That's right, folks. These guys can be moving 6, firing 15. You can fire 72 shots downrange. 72 shots. If you're just rolling average dice, 72 shots break down to 36 hits. 36 hits, that's 6 of every, that's 18, that's 22 wounding hits. If it's a monster, rend 2, go. You already spent your all-out defense in the first one. You're just dead. Because that's like 44 wounds. 40 to 44 wounds on average. Let's go back to the Blood Pelt Hunter, who you just hit a monster with. That Blood Pelt Hunter says, what? Did I do damage to you? Any Beast Claw Raider unit that targets you from now on for this phase gets a +1 to hit. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? And this is against monsters, sure. But the volume of shots you can do, period, against anything is just absolutely fantastic. You could do an entire build. So if gluttons are the gold standard, you can now go, you know what? I could just do a whole entire hunter army. And it's different than my gluttons. It's not as durable as my glutton army. It's not as outputty and melee as my glutton army. But oh my God, can I just pour out a crazy amount of firepower at 15 inches away. And that is sick. That is absolutely sick. Hunters are crazy good. Let me just go back to the chat. Yeah, I want to welcome Paul to the chat. He's been on stream lots of times. Yeah, look like a good Ven Army, straightforward plan, mid to low model count, easy on the brains. I agree. I've been having just a wonderful time smooth braining my Ogre matches. It's just been absolutely glorious. Fonzie, is this a gunline army? Yeah, it can be. You can do an entire army of nothing but solid meat. Come at me, bro, army, with like 3 units of fully reinforced gluttons, or you could just crank out your hunter army that comes in and ambushes from around the table, bangs out shots like we're in some sort of crime novel, and just, yeah, have a phenomenally fantastic time. The models look sick. So the new models that are coming out look absolutely beautiful. The new saber tusks look absolutely fantastic. So for those of you that still have the old model range, don't worry. There's a way for you to use your model range. All right, Gaio, I'm gonna drop me some pretend hunters. These are the now discontinued lead belchers. They came in units of 3. You add some beasties to this unit, and you could just use your lead belchers as hunters, because lead belchers are going to be discontinued in Legend anyway. And now you could just have, instead of crossbows, just lobbing shells across the board with saber tusks around them, and just have a great time. Hey, guess who has? I think I have 28 lead belchers in my collection. Yeah. All right. Have I drawn enough of a picture for you? Are hunters like absolutely nuts? Yes. Yes, they are. Catharsis. Okay, that's actually a real word. Sorry, man. I thought you had made up something. Catharsis in chat. Welcome to the chat. This is certainly not a 160-point unit. Still auto take at 180. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. What's crazy is you can weaken a thing, and let's just say you didn't quite finish it off. You had it on the last 1 or 2 wounds. It clicks over to them because you didn't finish it. If that guy even thinks about charging you, you could assail him with saber cats on the way in and just delete him before he even gets the swing as a charge phase ability. Just so good. Hunters expect them to go up in points. Like I don't know any way to say that. 4 units of hunters, by the way, is 1,280 points. That leaves you 720 points to play with after taking 4 units of these guys. Are you like, I don't know, take whatever, man. You can even take more hunters, but I mean, you could just slap some gluttons in there, right? A full unit of reinforced gluttons is 400 points. That still leaves you 320 points to do something with. Hey, that's another hunter unit. Go 5 units of hunters. Well, I guess we do need some heroes, to be fair. I guess somebody needs to lead this army. I wish, you know what? I don't want these heroes. All I want is my units. That's all I care about. I don't care about these heroes. These heroes are just getting in the way. Yeah. I don't even know what else to say to you. Hunters are absolutely just kind of bananas. I am sure they're going to be a very popular unit. If at the end of that spiel you don't feel inspired to just run an entire army of them, well, I don't know then. I guess I haven't done my job. That's right. I work for Games Workshop now. All right, so let's touch upon the last few units of the Beastclaw Raider range. They have Maul Beast Raiders, which are basically the Maul Beasts that shoot. I don't understand why you would take this unit. It does have the ability to, in the enemy movement phase, you get to do a redeploy for free. I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't care. If I'm taking Mauler Beasts, I am taking the melee ones. And I don't have to run away from you if you're dead. So that is that. I would not, I just don't understand what kind of purpose they serve. If you want shooting units, let's just talk about the aforementioned shooting unit that we just finished talking about, which is the Hunters. So they serve no role. I don't understand why you would take them. And then we got the Stonehorn Beast Riders and the Thunder Tusk Beast Riders. If you already have an extensive collection of monster trucks, obviously you could justify taking these as just OC, because these are still all OC 10 with lots of wounds, I guess. For me, these don't serve a purpose either. If I'm taking a monster truck, I'm taking one with a Husker riding on top of it, because the Priest is absolutely fantastic. Okay. We are now approaching the Maw Seekers portion of the book. So the book is split into three kind of like sub-factions. You got Gutbusters, Beastclaw Raiders, and then the Maw Seekers. The Maw Seekers is stuff like the Butcher and the like wizards, in essence, of the book. And they also have their own troop choices that have been fleshed out. All the models look absolutely fan-flippin-tastic. The aesthetic of everything looks glorious. Before we dig into this, let me hit the chat. Any of you got anything else? Loon, welcome to the chat again. 20 gluttons, a hunter, and 6 hunters in every army for me. Fill the rest of the taste. Yeah, I feel ya. I just really like the Tyrant as well. But I'm assuming what you mean by the hunter, you mean the little solo, what is he called? The Blood Pelt Hunter. Yeah, the Blood Pelt Hunter as your hero. And then nesting all those units underneath them. Yeah, you could have like a really sick 1-drop army or 2-drop army. I don't know what all that works out to, but you probably 2 drops, I guess, at the end of it. Yeah, looks absolutely sick. Hunters are so, I can't stress it. Hunters are bananas. I just not have seen any video kind of really graphically underscore how nuts they are. So I just really wanted to drive that point to you. They're bonkers. All right, let's get into the Maw Seekers and the gloriousness that is red. Now, when this guy got spoiled, people went goo goo gaga. He is good. The pause. You're like going, but why? What do you say? Why don't you like him? I was like, it's not that I don't like him. He's a wizard 2. He's 18 wounds. Love the fact that he's 18 wounds. 4 up save, 10 control, 6-inch move. That's fine. Being a wizard, 2 wizard is great. Because he's an ogre and he's got ogre stuff around him, he can obviously punch in combat. Not the best thing, obviously, in the army that can punch in combat, but that's really obviously not the point. What's the big deal? The big deal about this guy is, well, 2 big deals, really. He has the Son of the Hungering One, which is a wild, and this is a passive ability, I might add. While they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit, okay, friendly, non-Maw Seeker Ogre Mawtribes infantry just get a 6-up ward while wholly within. If you're actually a Maw Seekers unit, you get a 5-up ward automatically. No dice rolls required. Are you in my presence? Are you wholly within 12? Yes, you just get it. Amazing, right? How's that suck? It doesn't. Then we go into the big deal. From the depths of the cauldron, he basically pulls out a snack. Pick a visible non-hero Ogre Mawtribes unit wholly within 12 And that target can immediately use the Eat 'em Alive ability. What does that mean? It means if your opponent, you rack up, he outdrops you, he says you go first because he wants to be all clever, potentially double turn you or get his stuff close into you, whatever it is. You can go, well, this unit gets run in charge. Auto run, so 6 goes to 12, 12, 2d6, and you can just go for it. That's something you could do. Or you could go Maul Beasts, auto run these guys 16 inches across the table, and then 2d6 charge. Depending on what table you're on and how your opponent's set up, that could completely catch them up flat-footed. You'll be just outside of 3 inches of the unit that you want to charge, and then you can just smash super hard into the unit, and then Eat 'em Alive ability kicks in, and then reduce rend incoming by 1, and you've positioned a heaping mass of flesh. You probably deleted one of their units already. You'll still be outnumbered, but man, will he be distracted by that, your 560-point unit. Now, the world here is the problem. Here's the problem. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? This guy's 400 points. So if you have a Mauler Beast unit in your army, that's 560, and this guy's 400. That's 960 points of your army spent already. I'm not saying you don't have enough, and I'm not saying this guy isn't fantastic. What I'm saying is I'd rather have 10 gluttons. I don't know how else to say this. I would rather have 10 gluttons. Wouldn't you rather have, your army abilities right off the bat? Yeah. Honestly, I haven't been really feeling it. I'm fine. I'm fine with getting my abilities later. It just hasn't really been that big of a deal for me. Would it be nice to get run in charge right off the bat? Sure. But folks, as you play more experienced players, as you play really, really good players, as you play in your final match at a 5-round GT or a 6-round GT, or you're at Worlds, guess what all these people know? Guess what they're not doing? Lining up with the line of scrimmage. They're not falling for those traps. So the fact is, I'm not going to be able to run in charge in the first round anyway. I'm only doing that against the guy who's just out for fun on the weekend to drink beers with the boys, and he's there to have a good time. He doesn't play a lot. He lines up his army, and he says, you go first. Then you're like, okay, cool. I go first, smash your army, and we then go have beers. That happens. Yes, absolutely. That will happen. But that is not the reality of competitive play. The reality of competitive play, once you crack into your first 3 games, you've won them all. That 4th game is a universe of difference. Universe of difference. The competitive level just dials up. Going into that 5th round, if you're getting into a cut the top 8 situation, every single one of those guys are serial killers. These guys are not idiots. They're all part of teams of whatever country they're from. They're all rocking the house. No one's going to fall for that. So the fact that I don't get my my ability round 1, who cares? I'm not going full tilt in any way. Is it nice to have a level 2 wizard in the army? Heck yeah. It is super nice to have it. Not at 400 points. I don't need the 18 wounds. I'd rather have a level 2 wizard with 8 wounds. For a fraction of this, because I don't need him to kick ass. I don't need him to give me my my abilities on round 1. I just need him to be a level 2 wizard. Is this model super sick? Yes. Am I also going to get this model? Yes. Obviously, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous model. But come on, 400 points. I just can't justify it. I really can't. I would just much rather have gluttons. You know what's a really cool magic trick? 41 attacks to your face. That's a cool trick. I'm going to make a unit disappear. Yeah, red. I know everyone was super stoked and excited, and maybe some of you will comment now saying, you're completely wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. You live your life. Enjoy red. I think he's a super cool model, but he's probably not going to be making the vast majority of my list unless I'm doing the Army of Renown. We're not reviewing that today. or we're almost done. I don't want this to be much longer than what it already is. So is he cool? Yes. I don't think he's competitive enough, if that's the word. At least not competitive enough for me. All right, we'll get down to the Butcher. The Butcher, what it was before. What it was before was an aura, wholly within 12. Everyone gets a run in charge. That's gone. Butchers don't do that anymore. Butchers are now have the stat line of like a Slaughtermaster, and really what that means is they have the stat line of a Tyrant. And that's 4 attacks, 4 twos, 2 rend, 3 flat damage. These guys are actually houses in combat. Nothing to like, you know, oh my God. But 3 flat damage, rend 2, are you kidding me? This is really, really decent. Unlike a Tyrant, so the same amount of wounds as a Tyrant, 8 wounds, worse save, 5+, but it does have an inbuilt 6+ ward. Still OC3, still 6-inch move. It has the ability called Trog Guts. In the movement phase, if I could even remember to do this, I constantly forget. I guess more reps are what is required. On a 3+, pick a visible unit, Ogor Mawtribes unit. Again, Ogor Mawtribes unit, not Maw Seekers unit, not just Cav. This is a leader. It looks at the whole entire army and helps the whole entire army. Thank you so much, designers. All right. On a 3+, it gives that unit a 6+ ward. That is something significant to take into consideration when you're talking gluttons at 40 wounds. 6+ ward is not nothing. If it's a Maw Seekers unit, on a 3+, you give it a 5+ ward. Pretty darn good. And then if it inflicts any damage in combat, and by it I mean the Butcher inflicts any damage in combat, it gets an extra level of Wizard. I don't think it gets more than that, though. That would be funny if you could turn into a 3-level cast Wizard. Once per battle. Yeah, once per battle. Okay, so yeah, you can get 1 extra level. And you could go to a 2-cast Wizard. Gaio, go to the turntables, buddy. I'm going to show you my beautifully ugly Butchers. Oh, man. So these Butchers are all metal, of course, because I got them when they first came out. This Butcher, and I'm pointing at it, so if you are just listening to this, you're not going to be able to appreciate what I'm pointing at. This guy right here completely changed its makeup by just doing a head swap. Otherwise, you get this weird inbred looking, dumb looking Butcher that I really detested. So what I did is I grabbed the plastic head from the Ogre range and put it on that body, and it completely changed how it looked. The other Butcher I affectionately call my Baker, and this model, I'm going to say I'm going to be probably the first person in the world to do this conversion. Yeah, I just said it. I could be wrong, but you'd be hard-pressed to tell me I am wrong. Why? I was working for the company at the time, and that was the first sample that came to Canada. And I needed a second Butcher, and when I saw the rolling pin girl, I was like, you are going to be my Baker. And I've seen this conversion done by others before. The big difference, I went a little bit extra on it. You'll notice she has all sorts of piercings on her, much like the other Butcher. She has her own belt of like severed hands and stuff like that. Really to complete the illusion that she's also a Butcher. I also just really love the fact that she's a female in an Ogre army, and it's super cool that the company has added more ladies, more fat bottom girls to the Ogre army. All right, so these are my Butchers. Am I gonna get the new Butchers? Hell yeah. The new Butcher looks just absolutely glorious. Super sexy fat model. I love him. 170 points for the Butchers, and for an extra 20 points over a Tyrant, you get a Wizard level of 1. I think it's very fair. You get to hand out a ward, be a supportive guy. I think that's very fair. The points on this, pretty much bang on. I like Butchers. I run 2 of them in my list. Probably going to be dropping 1 once more of the stuff comes out. But I've liked having them in my list. The next unit is Cleavers. Cleavers are what everyone's calling the new Iron Guts. And Sure, we call them the new Iron Guts. I mean, they kind of have that profile. These guys are 220 points for 3 models. Why the 3 freaking models, man? These 3 models are just killing me. 4 wounds, 5 up save, 6 move, 2 OC. So standard Ogre profile more or less for a unit. They also have an inbuilt 6 up ward. They could very, very easily, or on a 3+, 66% of the time, they could be on a 5 up ward if they're close to a butcher. So pretty darn cool. What's their thing? Cleavers. 4 attacks apiece. Hit on 4s, wound on 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage. So they're basically like Iron Guts. They don't do the bodyguard thing, but they do have a combat phase ability that makes them more offensive. And their combat phase ability is if a friendly or enemy wizard or priest is within 6 inches of this unit, roll a dice. Friendly or enemy, okay? Roll a dice. On a 3+, pick one of the following effects for the rest of the turn. So if your butcher is within, 6 inches of this unit, your butcher can give them crit hits of 2. Amazing. If this unit's melee weapons already have crit hits of 2, they can go to crit mortals. Crit hits of 2 is more than enough. Crit mortals is not bad, but only absolutely fantastic if you're banging up against something that has like a 2-up save. So if you're going into KO boats and you're in that situation, then you could give them crit hits the prior turn from Eat 'em Alive, and then on a 3+, convert their damage into mortal wounds, which is absolutely amazing. Otherwise, crit 2 hits on a weapon that already has 2 rend and 3 flat damage is already incredible anyway. These are 220 points for 12 wounds. If you reinforce them, 24 wounds. Fully reinforced, these are 24, 20, I'm sure they have a champion, yeah. 24, 25 attacks at rend 2, 3 flat damage. I'm telling you, the math says gluttons are better, and they are. 440 points if you wanted to reinforce this unit. This unit looks beautiful. I love cleavers. Definitely picking up the box. Why? Because models are forever and paper rules are what they are. They come and go. And gorgeous models are gorgeous models. And when gluttons go up in points or hunters go up in points, maybe cleavers will go down a little bit to make them look even a bit more sexier. Again, I don't know if these guys are far off. They could be really durable as well. Although they don't have the armor save, they could have a really good armor save relatively reliably. And they can punch an enormous amount of damage as well. It's just not, 10 gluttons kind of damage. And the next slide does not exist because I'm not really reviewing it, which is the Gutseers. The Gutseers exist if you think they are cool and you love them. Continue doing so. Shorthand on this, they have an Ogre profile. Like the rest of the Moss Seekers, they have a 6-up ward, and your butchers can channel spells through them. Cool. I'm not interested. The next unit and the final unit I will be talking about is the Gorger Maw Pack. All right, Gorger Maw Pack. Where again, the gold standard is gluttons. What's the Gorger Maw Pack do? All right, well, first off, 240 points. Okay, 40 more points. These are 5 models. Oh, okay, 5 models, not 3, 5 models. These have 5 wounds apiece. That's right, 25 wounds. That is for 240. 25 wounds. So 5 more wounds than a regular unit of gluttons. Now, this does not have the same kind of armor save. This only saves a 6+ as opposed to a 5. And it does not have that cool ability where I don't charge, if I didn't charge, I get +1 to my armor. This does not have that. But they do have a 6-up ward. So a 6-up save with a 6-up ward. And guess what also they have? They have 1 additional attack over a glutton as well. So 5 attacks instead of 4. 5 attacks, that's 25 attacks, plus a champ, 26 attacks. And an extremely relevant anti-infantry rule of +1 rend. So with those 26 attacks, if those are applied to infantry faces, all their attacks are rend 2, which is very good. Again, they hit on 4s, wound on 2s. Against infantry, rend 2, 2 flat damage. This profile, these guys are looking pretty darn good. They have, in the deployment phase, called troglodyte lurkers. Pick this unit. If it has not been deployed, you can set them off on the fringes. And kind of like Beast Claw Raiders, you could have these guys during your movement phase set up on the battlefield, wholly within 9 inches of battlefield edge, more than 9 inches away from the enemy, and then off you go. I do not think these guys can be reinforced, or at least that was something. Am I wrong? Folks, if you know better than I do, it says infantry, champion, musician, 6-up ward. It doesn't say it can't be reinforced. So 480 points for 50 wounds, 50 attacks at rend 2 when you're banging up against infantry at 2 flat damage. Gorger Maw Pack. I have not played with it, so I'm not going to tell you that I know what I'm talking about, but raw stats wise, it looks like it passes the mustard. Is it a touch too expensive? Man, this would have been like an auto choice at 220. It'd be, yeah, 100%. I'm down for Gorger Maw Pack. 240 is probably an extremely fair amount of points for them. And to be honest, gluttons are slightly unfair. Hunters are unfair. So it makes this look not as desirable when compared to those things. But this is a good unit. The models are super sick. Gorgers look fantastic as a model range as well. So I do rate the Gorgers. They'll probably become even more appealing as things get balanced out. Let's go to, what do we got here? We got BitBro. We'll call you BitBro. Great insights. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate the nice compliment. Darktron, this unit cannot be reinforced. It cannot be, right? Where does it say that? It used to not be able to be reinforced. Maybe I'm covering it with the post-it note. No. It'll probably say it when you try building it. That's probably what it'll do. Gorger Maw Pack. Oh, you mean yeah. In the builder. That's what Darktron is saying to me. Yeah, when you build it can't be reinforced. Makes 100% sense. It never was able to before. I can't see why they would change it right now. Still at a pack of 5, that's completely fine. 25 wounds for 240 points with the output it has. I think it's just fine. So there you go. Even if it can't be reinforced, if it could be reinforced, though, holy cow. It is in the point update. Gotcha. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. And then we get into our terrain piece, which is the Maw Pit. Here, let me reach over off camera. This is the Maw Pit. Reason why it's unpainted is because it was really great in the previous edition, but it was close enough that when I picked this up, that I knew there would be a new army, and I didn't want to sink time painting something that wasn't going to be, I was going to use. So I was waiting for this new army to come out, and now the book is here, and this thing is really bad. I would never take this. All my games I've played so far, I shouldn't say never. Never say never. Okay, all the games I've played so far, I've not put this on the table. And then the comments are, and I got into it, it's like, But you can use it to block movement. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But the problem is my opponent can also use it to block movement. So if I position this too aggressively, my opponent will just play on this side. And then my gluttons are like playing tag around this gigantic thing that I can't move through. If I place it off to the corner, it's not doing anything. It literally is nothing. Like, the rules are terrible. Like, it's terrible. Now, there is a universe where you do take this. Look at the size of this. This is a serious piece of movement blocking. And where I would take this is in that hunter list. I'm not charging you anyway. And I'm going to place this roughly 3 inches away from another piece of objective at a choke point and just fire across here and use this. You can come at my stupid hole in the ground and destroy it. I don't care. This is durable enough. It's got 12 wounds, 4 up save, 6 up board, whatever. I don't care if this dies. Point is, you're not charging me automatically through it. Not unless you fly. And I could zone you out by being closer. You can't place a base on the other side of it. So that would be the one moment. This would be really super useful. Maybe you're taking a whole bunch of hunters and maybe the scrap launcher and a whole bunch of ranged attacks. At ogres, you can live out your ranged dreams. You could be the shooting army that no one's expecting. And then there's a way for you to leverage the piece. Okay, so that's it. Ogres. So to kind of bring it all together, this book is absolutely fantastic. Thank you to the new guy that's joined the design team, or new people that have joined the design team. You have been doing an absolutely fantastic job. Not just this book, but many of the new books that have come out recently. Disciples of Zinch is cool. I like the Hedonites book, regardless of what people had said. I liked all the new books that came out. The new, what else came out recently? The Sylvaneth book is absolutely sick. What makes this a standout is my shock. Because it's been a long time running where Destruction got anything great. And in this edition, Destruction's never been good right out of the gate with any release. This is the first Destruction army that is genuinely good out of release. Gits were freaking terrible. What an absolute trash heap of a book. They've polished that turd over time, dropped points, and they made it okay, good. Trolls are good, cool. Ironjaw's terrible when they came out. They've dropped enough points where they polished that turd and it's like livable, cool. I love Ironjaws. Also love Gits, by the way, for those, sorry if I tapped the mic. Cruel Boys, absolutely garbage when they came out. Again, after I don't even know, like a serious amount of revisions, Cruel Boys got to the point where they're good, like actually good. Love the recent adjustments to it. It takes an enormous amount of humility on the team's part to be able to recognize, look, we obviously missed the boat. Good on you for trying to curb back. But this is the first Destruction book that is actually just good. Amazing. The first time I can honestly say the design team are professionals. It doesn't matter what their bias is. This team worked on Chaos, worked on Order faction, now worked on a Destruction faction, worked on Death faction, and guess what? They try to give their customer the best possible experience that they can. That's what I've seen. That's reading in between the lines. That's evidence across all the most recent books. And that's all you really want. And so, fair enough, maybe sometimes you make a mistake and you fall a little bit short. There's falling a little bit short than the release of the Gits book, right? There's falling a little bit short, and then there's the release of the Orc War Clans book. These are not the same things. This is not the same thing. And if you love Destruction as much as I do, and you love the factions, man, I'm telling you, I'm feeling super optimistic about Sons of Behemoth. Ogres are just absolutely spectacular. I love all the direction and all the adjustments they've done recently for a lot of the Destruction armies. Iron Jaws feels still a little short. Gits still feel short, but it is what it is. That thing needs a foundational redo from just grassroots and up. That book's terrible. In any case, love the book. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I'm going to hit the actual chat. How could orcs be so damn interesting in 40K, but so meh in AOS outside of models being awesome? Okay, I will answer this. BitBro, orcs in 40K have had an up and down history as well. And 9th edition, the only approach they did for orcs was just give them ludicrous shooting. And it was always like not enough attention, not enough. Like, folks, if you swing the extremes, both are bad design. If something is busted to all get up, that's also an equal lack of care, right? They're saying, oh, these guys are keep on asking for rules. Fine, we'll give you rules. We'll spit out this stupid thing, and now you guys can be satisfied. That's what they did with 40K orcs multiple times. And that's why all those detachments were like nerfed into the ground within 30 to 40 days, because God forbid a greenskin army was ludicrous for anything longer than 30 days. That's bad design. It has only been this edition of the game where the orcs seem to be an enormous amount of love has been poured into it. And I think this is the really first book that is eventually going to be coming out for orcs where this design team had a real good crack at it. This is, I think, this upcoming codex, whenever it arrives, is going to be a real clear indication of where the design team as a whole is going to move forward. So right now, yeah, orcs in 40K are just absolutely fantastic. Such interesting armies, so many different builds. Everything seems really, really positive. But I also like to add that 40K design team got a designer from the AOS department, and he migrated over to the 40K design team. And I think he was one of the reasons why dispositions exists in 40K, which is an absolutely phenomenal mechanic. I won't bore you all, but it's basically battle tactics done even better. I'll leave it at that. So yeah, AOS orcs, it's just they didn't care. The person who was working on it was not a professional game designer. He's a guy who liked other things, and he was given a project, and he just wanted to get it done and out. And the other person who was proofreading it also didn't care about orcs, because either one of them just didn't feel it, just didn't feel the army. So there was no care or consideration, right? But this reeks, if not of love, phenomenal design. And love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, I've talked long enough. Thank you to everyone who joined me on the chat. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. I want to thank my beautiful man that is Gaio in the back room, helping me out today. And I guess I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell. We're hoping to get another stream out this week because streams have been rather spotty. Hoping to get one potentially for this Wednesday and some more 40K streams as well. All right, folks. Thank you so much again for joining me. Have a phenomenal day. Peace out. Mwah. Check you out later.